Join me as I turn this 1990s beaded bolero into some bridal accessories for one of my clients. So this bride came to me requesting that I turn her mother's beaded bolero from the 90s into some adorable bridal accessories for her. So what she wants is a headband for her rehearsal dinner, in addition to a bouquet wrap for the ceremony. So let's go ahead and get started. Just gonna go in here and take out those shoulder pads and remove the bias binding around the armhole. The challenge with this project is disassembling and making cuts that do not disrupt the pattern of the beading. So I really wanted to work within the pattern and make intentional choices about where everything falls on the headband and on the wrap. So now that I've removed all of that binding, we're just going to seam rip the entire sleeve. I decided on the sleeve for this portion because I figured if I cut into one of the main pattern pieces, that is just more invasive of a process as opposed to just removing the sleeve, doing whatever damage I need to do to that, and then the rest of the garment is intact for the headband. Now that the sleeve is fully disassembled, I'm going to thread trace a rectangle for the wrap so that I can then hammer around the seam allowance to flatten out all those beads, making sure none of them get stuck in my machine. So when I'm sewing the border around my rectangle, I'm doing so to make sure that all of the threads used for the beading stay intact and uncut to avoid unraveling any beads that will be shown on the wrap. I always use a zipper foot doing projects like this so that I can get right up on the edge without things getting too bumpy. I left all the sequins on just because those are pretty easy to sew over. They will not break your needles. You won't lose an eye. So those are not quite as treacherous as the beads here. And then once I finish up this reinforcement, I'm gonna pull out that red thread that was basically just to mark my border for me. And I'm gonna just cut 1/2 inch seam allowance. I might trim that down a little bit later, but now we're going to put it on a satin backing and get this thing done. We're gonna kind of make it like a pillowcase, pretty simple here. Evening out my rectangle for my satin backing, I interfaced it as well. Then I ended up making some satin bias binding to use as the ties for the bouquet wrap. So stay tuned for part 2, where I'll be making the headband and revealing the final products.